What's up guys, it's your boy Swish, the crankiest NBA fan on YouTube. I've already ragged on people for leaving out underappreciated prospects in my Next Up series, and I've vented my feelings about draft grades. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched that video, I hate them. But now, as I go down my list of NBA things that don't actually matter but still somehow manage to piss me off, I'm gonna take a trip down the road of NBA draft comparisons. Now look, I'm the first person to act as an apologist for draft comparisons. I feel like they're a great tool to give people an idea of the play style any given prospect has, especially for the people who don't watch these guys play in college before they go pro. My problem with them stems from the interpretation of them and the laziness with which they're often doled out. Laziness, you say? What laziness? Now look, I'm as lazy as the next guy. I'm the guy who will thirst to death for hours just because I don't want to get my ass up and walk downstairs to the kitchen to get something to drink. I get that kind of lazy. I'm talking basketball lazy. Okay, let me rephrase that again. Off the court basketball lazy. I'm talking about throwing out a random name as a comparison because a player fits a minimal bit of criteria and calling it scouting. I see this most often in one comparison in particular, Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi's name gets thrown around more than a cornhole beanbag at a redneck college football tailgate. If there's a 6'7" guy who's remotely decent at defense and looks like he can shoot too, you can bet your cornhole he's going to be compared to Kawhi Leonard. I mean, in just the last 5 years or so, we've had Rui Hachimura, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Devin Vassell, Jaylen Brown, Jonathan Kuminga, Justice Winslow, Stanley Johnson, DeAndre Hunter. My god, this list is testing my lung capacity. Okay, KJ McDaniels, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Miles Bridges, Sekou Doumbia, Nasir Little, Keldon Johnson, Isaac Okoro, Preston Sachiel with Scotty Barnes, Moses Moody, and Keon Johnson all be compared to Kawhi. And you gotta wonder, if there are that many Kawhi Leonards running around, why aren't these teams better? And why are they all able to play full seasons? Okay, that was the petty Spurs fan in me coming out, but in all seriousness, I feel like Kawhi's name is dropped as a cop-out whenever people get lazy in analyzing prospect skills. Picture this, you're an NBA player, I'm your coach. You're getting ready for your next game, and you ask what your matchup is like. I tell you that you're matched up with their wing, and that he's a lot like Kawhi Leonard. Then you get out on the court, and you're playing against Miles Bridges. You've been preparing for a guy who plays an ISO mid-range game, can step out and hit the three, albeit not doing it often, and will hit you with some strong drives if you don't D up. Instead, you get matched up with a guy who plays a much larger off-ball role, doesn't shoot the three as well but does it more often, and makes a living as a slashing, over-the-top lob target for a floor general point guard. Don't even get me started on the defensive abilities. Who would you rather match up against, Kawhi Leonard or Miles Bridges? Who cares if they're the same height and weight? Do they really play at all similarly? No. And that's where my problem with these lazy comparisons lies. They don't give an accurate frame of reference for a prospect's play style, and they set expectations unrealistically high. I think people that make these kinds of comparisons begin to use them as a tool to hype up prospects rather than describe them. Oh, he could be the next Kawhi Leonard. I've got to watch him. Oh my god, the next Nikola Jokic. We've got to see him. But it detracts from any utility a comparison could have. When I think of an adequate one for Miles Bridges, I think of Jerome Kersey or Jerry Stackhouse. Both high flyers, solid defenders, really good off-ball slashers, and guys who could shoot decently well from deep. Well, at least in Stackhouse's case. Does that mean Bridges will have his career capped at what their careers were? No. Does it mean Bridges will have a better career than they did? No. All it means is I see him playing a similar type of style in this league. He likes to get baskets in a similar way, moves similarly on the court, and brings the same energy. The even bigger problem with throwing out those star names all the time is that when there's an actual reasonable comparison to be made between a prospect and an all-timer's style of play, it doesn't get taken seriously. That's where the improper interpretation of these comparisons plays a part. A lot of people seem to view comparisons as a prediction for the type of career a player will have, which is already a terrible way to view them, but when you have Kawhi Leonard's name being thrown around 4 times per draft, it ups the ante for any player you make a comparison for. I got flamed years ago for comparing Tony Bradley to Tim Duncan, and that's probably why. I wasn't saying he was a #1 pick and the best of all time at his position. I was saying that his post moves bore a resemblance to Duncan's favorites, his defensive rotations and positioning were very similar to Duncan's, his timing on shot contests as opposed to athleticism was very Duncan-esque. Hell, he even had the same gait as Duncan while running. And you know what? I still stand by it. Bradley's approach to the game is still incredibly similar to Tim Duncan's. The difference? He's just not as good as Duncan was, period. And we all knew that from the start. But in a 2017 draft where Josh Jackson, OG Anunoby, Jonathan Isaac, and even Semi Ojeleye had Kawhi's name thrown in as a comparison for some wide range of reasons, it's hard to take that big name seriously for Tony Bradley. So I've ranted all this time just to say this. Draft comparisons can be a very useful tool. Just don't abuse them when making them or using them in an argument. Because when it comes down to it, despite the fact that they're the same height and play defense, you can't tell me that the Phoenix Suns don't immensely value the unique skill set and off-ball play of Mikal Bridges in favor of Kawhi Leonard's ISO style. That beautiful Phoenix offense would come to a standstill. You can't tell me the Hornets don't love having Bridges on the wing playing complement to their new star point guard in LaMelo Ball. You think LaMelo would be getting as much of a shot to show off what he could do if Kawhi were there? The same holds true in reverse. You think the Clippers don't know that Kawhi is one of the top players in the game when healthy? Could Stanley Johnson or Isaac Okoro come in and replace his production and value to the team because they're the same size and play a little bit of defense? Do these prospects a favor and give them a watch for yourself before writing them off as a carbon copy of an existing player. For one, it undermines what guys like Kawhi Leonard have achieved. If everyone is as elite as Kawhi, then nobody's all that special. On the flip side, it doesn't give young players a chance to be who they can be. No, Scotty Barnes is no Kawhi Leonard, but he's been pretty damn exciting this year in Toronto. Devin Vassell is not the second coming of Kawhi for the Spurs, but he sure does look like a big piece for their future. Let's let comparisons be the minimal metric they're supposed to be, and let's let these players show us who they are on their own time. We owe them that much.